This animated timeline shows what a trillion actually looks like if we measure it in time. If you go back 1 million seconds, you land about 11.5 days in the past. A billion seconds takes you back 32 years. But if you try to count backward 1 trillion seconds, you end up 31,000 years in the past, long before any recorded human civilization even began. It is an impossibly massive number. Our brains are not built to process it. Amassing $1 trillion is a feat that should break the laws of basic economics for a single human being. And yet, we are sitting right on the edge of seeing it happen. On the morning of June 12, 2026, the Nasdaq Stock Exchange opened its doors to a company called SpaceX. In the very first second of trading, the owner of that company, Elon Musk, became the world's first individual trillionaire. Combine the net worth of Google, Amazon, Oracle, and Facebook's founders, and it's completely dwarfed by this one man. Yet, as SpaceX pushed him to $1 trillion, it hemorrhaged cash, losing $5 billion in 2025 and $4.28 billion in early 2026. This trillion-dollar status stands on a 3-step blueprint: manufactured market hype, calculated tax avoidance, and total political capture. In economics, there is an idea called the castles in the air theory. It suggests that a company's stock price relies entirely on psychological hype. In this model, the valuation is driven by what investors hope a company will become tomorrow, regardless of its actual profits or physical output today. Elon Musk operates his businesses on this exact premise. Investors buy into his carefully pitched version of the future, prioritizing science fiction narratives over the company's current physical performance. The pattern goes back years. In 2013, he pitched the Hyperloop, promising 600-mile-per-hour travel between New York and Boston. The company eventually dissolved into nothing, failing to make a single successful product. In 2015, he claimed Tesla would have fully autonomous driving in 3 years. More than a decade later, the cars still cannot drive themselves. The Vegas Loop tunnel project ended in underground traffic jams rather than a high-speed transit revolution. In 2014, he gave a 10 to 12-year timeline for sending humans to Mars. That deadline has passed, with no realistic plan in sight. Analysts call this environment a financial cult. Musk holds an estimated 38% of SpaceX and up to 25% of Tesla, but only about 0.1% of his wealth is in actual cash. If he ever attempted to sell those shares to access the money, the massive flood of stock would likely signal to investors that the dream was over, causing the valuation to collapse. This creates an obvious problem. All this wealth is tied up in shares that cannot be sold without destroying their value. Yet, the ultra-rich still fund sprawling empires and multi-billion-dollar acquisitions like Twitter. They use a strategy known in the banking world as buy, borrow, die. This loophole allows the ultra-wealthy to fund their lifestyles while avoiding the income and capital gains taxes paid by everyone else. This flowchart illustrates exactly how it works. Billionaires mortgage their highly inflated company shares to major banks. In exchange, the banks provide massive, low-interest cash loans. They receive liquid spending money, but because they are technically taking on debt, the transaction is untaxable. We can see the results in the historical data. Between 2014 and 2018, Elon Musk saw his total wealth increase by $13.9 billion. Over that same period, he paid an effective tax rate of just 3.2%. Meanwhile, the average working-class American is paying between 20 and 30% of their income to the government. By utilizing this loophole, billionaires live largely tax-free. This shifts the actual cost of running the country's infrastructure and services onto the shoulders of the average taxpayer. Maintaining a valuation built on hype requires immense political power. It requires a government that is willing to overlook regulatory failures. Leading up to the 2024 election, Musk donated $290 million to Donald Trump's campaign. Following the win, Musk took on the role of a shadow president, attending official cabinet meetings and traveling on state visits to China and Saudi Arabia to finalize deals for his private companies. Before the election, federal agencies were pursuing 40 active investigations and court cases against Musk and his companies. In the months following the inauguration, those cases were systematically dropped. Simultaneously, the government launched new probes into his direct competitors. The government also moved to alter long-standing market rules. Historically, companies had to wait months or years to enter major indexes like the NASDAQ 100 to ensure their stability. For SpaceX, the NASDAQ introduced a fast entry rule. Then, just 2 days before the IPO, the Securities and Exchange Commission issued a letter exempting brokers from a strict law requiring them to keep customer funds in safe, separate accounts. These regulatory shifts funneled $70 billion of everyday Americans' retirement savings and pension funds into SpaceX. The government prioritized securing Musk's trillionaire status over the long-term safety of public savings. A net worth built on political favor is inherently unstable. In 2025, a single public dispute with the president caused Tesla's share price to drop 14% almost instantly. This wealth consists of numbers on a screen, vulnerable to a single shift in the political landscape. This engineered stock market game comes with a massive real-world opportunity cost. The United Nations World Food Program calculated the exact funding needed to eliminate extreme world hunger by the year 2030. They found the total cost would be just $40 billion a year. When Musk challenged the UN to prove their math, their director provided a detailed roadmap showing exactly how that money would save 42 million people from starvation. Musk never responded. Modern mega-wealth is largely the byproduct of financial cunning, unpaid taxes, and political corruption. The traditional image of the hard-working innovator is often a mask for these mechanical advantages. This trillion-dollar empire is an illusion waiting to crash. When that moment comes, the billionaires at the top have already secured their lifestyle. It is the common taxpayers and pension holders who will be left holding the bag.